Welcome to the FGC Podcast. This is Slug.
This is Turk.
How is everything going in your world, Turk?
Oh, just locked indoors, away from humans, with my fiance and our little rat dog.
I mean, you know what the best part about the social isolation is? Games and videos and streaming services are putting out all kinds of sales. I have purchased so many video games and board games for dirt cheap. It's amazing.
Yeah, my Steam library, I'm pretty sure, has tripled.
I love it. Thank you, Steam. Thank you to all those developers out there who are just making sure that people have a reason to stay in and not be a problem.
I'm waiting for Disney Plus to hook me up. Every single day, I tweet at Disney Plus, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and Hamilton to ask them to release the Hamilton original Broadway cast recording on Disney Plus 2 years early so that we peasants stuck indoors can hear that beautiful thing and watch it live on Disney Plus. But I haven't got no love back yet.
You think they've already recorded it?
They recorded it when the original Broadway cast was in theater. They've just been sitting on the footage because all the shows have been selling out. So what they're going to do is they're going to release it in theaters in October, and then a year later they're going to put it on Disney Plus. They've already announced and signed all the contracts. So they're sitting on it. They probably have it edited, but they're not going to release it until after a couple years, because that's marketing and business, and that's how they do their things.
Oh man, I thought they were all going to come together to shoot it one good time. I didn't know they already had the footage and that they already have everything done.
Oh yeah, it's already been recorded. They had the they did it so like right whenever QED and a couple PBS and like TV stations like that were doing things for them to promote them, they had recorded it then before everybody started leaving.
Disney, man, they think 3 steps ahead, and they got their fingers in every cookie jar.
Well, I think this might have been the Hamilton company with Lin-Manuel, but I think his relationship with Moana and all that stuff really helped bridge the way into Disney acquiring the rights.
Good thoughts, good thoughts. So, have you heard about stress baking over this corona outbreak?
I've heard about stress eating because I've been doing a lot of it.
So there's this thing. Well, it's funny too. There's so many articles, and I swear, if someone has an idea, they write about it. And with there being 7 billion people in the world, it's a good chance that it's going to catch on. There's this phenomena going around where people are craving carbs and sweets, and they just want to sleep during this time of pandemic. With everybody being isolated and being told to stay in, and they're afraid they have to ration their foods. There's this thing going around where people are just craving sweets. And then there's also a thing where people are stress baking. I heard that, the country's almost out of eggs. We can't produce more eggs. We can't give a stimulus package to a chicken to pop out a couple extra eggs a day. We are out of eggs. They've gone through the Easter stocks already. And because people have just been baking bread, and they've been baking. That's what they're doing when they're stuck at home, and they're afraid, so they bake because they think it'll go further, and they're practicing. Now we're out of eggs.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me with the toilet paper and everything else that's just the stores are out of. I was at the store a couple hours ago, and I didn't think to walk down that aisle. It was absolute chaos in the dairy, toilet paper, egg aisle. There was just so many people. I was like, that is not social distancing. I'm just going to walk down and skip that stuff. I grabbed some cheese, and I got out of there.
I don't know if you've been eating anything good, but this week, I got a little craving, and we had plenty of eggs around, so we used a couple. And Hannah, my roommate and friend, she made me s'mores chocolate chip cookies. She makes the best chocolate chip cookies, so she gets her chocolate chip cookie dough, and then she puts a graham cracker and a big piece of Hershey bar and a marshmallow on top, and then she puts a scoop of the cookie dough on top of that and bakes it, and the cookie bakes over top of the s'more and it melts down on itself. Oh, and a side note, we didn't have marshmallows. She made marshmallows. Homemade marshmallows, just so I can get this cookie kick. I was so grateful, and they are so delicious.
That actually sounds so good. We've been eating a lot of cinnamon rolls. We bought pre-made ones from a local bakery here, but what we've been really doing a lot of is homemade pizzas. So we've been purchasing dough. Um, I haven't gotten the skill set to make my own dough yet, but we've been throwing anything and everything on these pizza crusts. I've made a barbecue chicken pizza. I've made a buffalo chicken pizza. Just regular pizzas with like banana peppers and pepperoni. The other day we had one with turkey pepperoni. So
Oh,
we've just been
okay.
trying everything. And so today at the store I bought another 5 crusts just to see what I can make. Maybe we'll do a taco pizza someday this week. Um,
I'm a fan of taco pizzas. Chicken bacon ranch pizzas, CBRs, those are always clutch. And you know what? That's why you're my best friend. Because we also experimented with pizza. Hannah found a gluten free pizza crust mix. And so, with just some water, a little bit of this, little of that, was able to whip up this pizza dough on her own. So, she made her own sauce from scratch. We did not make our own cheese. So, we did have great value help us out on that account. But we made pizza from scratch last night. Phenomenal.
Interesting. Interesting. Um, what is your ultimate favorite pizza topping that you are currently missing?
It's pepperoni and mushroom. I always want pepperoni and mushrooms, and we don't have a lot of pepperoni in the house. And where I live, luckily, one of my roommates enjoys pepperoni and mushrooms, but that's it. And nobody else in my life has ever wanted to enjoy pepperoni and mushroom pizza with me.
Yeah,
And I crave it all the time.
I'm out on that mushroom
Yeah, you have this
game.
bullshit excuse where you pretend that you're allergic. Ladies and gentlemen, Turk has been trying to tell me for years he's allergic to mushrooms. He doesn't know that I was secretly chopping them up real fine and sliding them into every dish I could. So all these things I couldn't cook with mushrooms. If I had another friend over who was lactose intolerant, there's no cream or dairy going in. I had some vegan and vegetarian friends, so bye-bye pork chops and steak. It was so difficult in college to enjoy a nice meal, but it really just made me flex my culinary skills.
That's all that matters. Is I was just helping you improve in your skill sets.
I appreciate that. I definitely gained the master level by the end.
So, I
What
want
about you? Back to you. What's your pizza topping
to.
before we move on?
So I there's a so it's kind of weird in Nebraska. Actually, some of the best pizza is from a gas station called Casey's, and I know that sounds ridiculous and it doesn't make any sense,
Sounds
but
like a hillbilly thing.
but
That sounds
there's
so
the
country.
I know, but it's good, and they make dough fresh daily and all that kind of stuff. But
Well,
um,
damn.
they have this thing called a breakfast pizza, which is it's got like onions, peppers, eggs, bacon, sausage. It's so good. So I'm missing those. So one of the ideas that I have is I'm gonna make a hollandaise sauce. I'm gonna put it on the pizza crust. I'm gonna fry some eggs, fry some bacon. Maybe I think we have some breakfast sausage. And I'm gonna throw it on there, throw it in the oven, and see if I can make my own version of their breakfast pizza. So I think that's kind of what I've been fiending for.
I want you to document all those steps because that sounds amazing. You know, we also tried a little eggs Benedict right before this pandemic broke out, and we were practicing some hollandaise sauce. We call it Tom Holland sauce because it's a lot easier to pronounce. And you know, we had this epiphany. It's a really creamy sauce, and this recipe called for lemon juice, and it was just a tablespoon and a half, but it was way too much. So then when we wanted lemon pepper chicken the next night, we had this idea we should totally make a peppery, lemony hot Tom Holland sauce, and we put that over some rotisserie chicken breast, and that was a fantastic high fat, low carb keto meal that we had with some green beans. Fantastic.
That sounds really good. Sounds really, really good.
So
Wow.
what
I'm
are we doing
drooling.
today? Is
I'm
it something
drooling.
different? You should be drooling because we can't have any of these foods. And that's just our bodies telling us that we want what we want.
Yeah, you've got me salivating for food that I can't have, and I hate you. So let's change
Well,
gears.
yeah, but when we had those cookies for the first time the other day, I literally drooled myself. I opened my mouth for it. I was waiting 3 days for these cookies, and as soon as I took a bite, I felt something. I looked down, all down my chest, just like a slob, like a 3-year-old, an infant, whatever you want to call me, a dog. I drooled everywhere with that first bite. and they were well worth it.
For real. Okay, yeah, we need to stop talking about this and change gears a little bit because this isn't going to be safe for all the food that I just purchased. It's going to be gone
Good
by
point.
the end of the day.
And so, by switching gears, are we going to be certifying any establishments today?
No, I think we're going to pause on it today. We've had a couple that we've certified. We have had a couple that we haven't. I think it's let's be a little topical. There's
I
some
like topical.
trends happening right now, and there's some other things we want to experiment with. So when I was proposing ideas about I wanted to do a podcast with you, some of the people just said current events, things that are happening. So every now and then, maybe we can pepper in some of that. So I wanted to talk to you about two things. The first being a TV show that you asked me to watch,
Yes, I did.
which was called Raising Dion.
I loved it.
And then I want to talk up to you and get your take on a TV show I forced you to watch
Yes, you did.
called The Tiger King.
Didn't love it as much.
So let's get into Raising Dion first, because there's a couple of things I want to talk about, but I want to see what you want to talk about first. So,
Okay. Yes, and I'm loving that we're going to get a chance to share this in our opinions and our views. Again, this isn't necessarily a review. It's just a discussion, and we would love to welcome you to share your thoughts too. So go out and check some of these things out if you have the opportunity and the means. So Raising Dion, I've been hearing about it forever. It's been on Netflix. And finally, with this social isolation, nobody's doing anything, I finally sat down and I watched it. And I fell in love. I like things that are good-hearted in nature. I like happy endings. I don't like the Game of Thrones-esque, everyone's a spy, everyone's gonna die, you better watch yourself because you're gonna get shanked in the shower. I can't take it. Even though I love it, it wears on my soul. And I found out that after working for the Achievement Center as a therapist with children and based in trauma work for a few years, in higher education with all these students and stress, I couldn't take it anymore. I can't watch Criminal Minds because it's too negative. I like NCIS, where every episode Gibbs is going to get the bad guy and he's going to smack his team in the back of the head and everyone's going to have a happy turkey dinner.
except for that
That's what
one
I
where
want.
the Iranian assassin shoots that girl in the head.
That was terrible, but you know what? He got his fucking comeuppance the next two episodes, okay? When he got blah, right back. But yes, that's the thing. Even though NCIS might have that end of the season cliffhanger, you know they're going to get that son bitch as soon as the season comes back in. And that's why you wait for that. You just can't wait because it's going to be good. But I digress. So back to Raising Dia. Yes.
Tell me explain to me like I'm 5 without spoiling anything what Raising Dion's about.
Okay, and that's what I was going to ask you because, you know, on our YouTube channel, we can do some timestamps. So if we get spoilery, we could put a post that says, spoiler at this moment, spoiler ends at this moment. But to give you, at this moment, a non-spoiler, explain it like I'm 5, Raising Dion is about a young, innocent, pure-hearted child who discovers that he has superpowers. And it is about how he discovers his powers and how his mother has to deal with the stress of being a single mother and being a single black mother living in a city with her single little child who now has these powers that he doesn't understand, that she doesn't understand. She's afraid that if anyone finds out that he'll be taken away from her, so she has to deal with all of this while trying to be a single mom. So she has everyday problems trying to get a job, trying to keep the job because her son needs help all the time now because he's a superhero and he might accidentally teleport up a tree.
While also dealing with grief of losing her husband.
100%. And then on top of all that, it's so good because you see the grief. The actors do a fantastic job. Sometimes it might be a little hokey, but I love the relationships. This show is full of them. Between Dion and his friends who are children and how Dion's in a new school, so he doesn't like some of the losers that want to be his friend and he wants to be with the cool kids. I connected with that. When the mom's dealing with her grief, I can understand that. When the best friend, who is a godfather to Dion, is dealing with the grief of his best friend being gone, I can sympathize with that as well. There's secrets and a little bit of mystique. I love it. And then after you're starting to get your feet underneath you and you're catching your breath, they throw just a little bit of the social justice issues that people face and a little bit of the racism that people of color may face in a day-to-day environment. I know I grew up in a very, very not open-minded area of Pennsylvania, okay? So when I see this scene where Dion's being accused of being the bad student literally just because he's black, when the white student was just the bully and did everything wrong, my heart was breaking. So this mom is dealing with so much, and on top of all that, she also now has to have a talk with her little 7-year-old son about race. I loved it. And the father, who you see in flashbacks, is played fantastically by Michael B. Jordan. He is killing it in everything I see him do.
He might actually be my current favorite actor, like, out of everybody. Everybody that's pumping out stuff and putting out stuff, I think Michael B. Jordan is my favorite.
Hands down, like the roles he's been taking lately, he gets to do his action muscle. He flexes his emotional and his dramatic muscle. He has a comedy muscle that he knows how to flex. I love it. I loved everything about the show, and the best part is the representation of disabilities when little Esperanza comes out. That is Dion's best friend, who he begrudgingly befriends because she's the only one who will talk to him. She's a little Latina girl who uses a power wheelchair. She never says what her disability is, but she is
in the comics,
disabled. Okay?
In the comics, she has brittle bones disease. And, I think dwarfism.
And I thought she may have a little dwarfism. She might be a little person because she's very tiny in stature, even compared to her other peers. But she is just a firecracker. And there's some scenes like, I'm not going to lie, I'm disabled. We've already talked about this a little bit. After the racism, after the grief, after Dion just wanting to fit in, and then they go to a birthday party, and the first thing I notice is the kid runs out of the van and leaves Esperanza in the van, and the person's like, whoa, you can't just leave her, and she's like, no, go ahead, I'll catch up. That broke my heart, because that's me every time as a kid, telling the friend, just go on, I'll catch up, because I know that if I inconvenienced a little kid, they're not going to want to be my friend. But Esperanza was cool with it. As soon as she got out of the van, I noticed there were stairs. Luckily, there's a little Hollywood magic in this little suburban house in paradise. Magically, she was able to float up the stairs and get into the backyard where there was a perfectly placed deck and runway for her to drive on. I just thought, and then there was obstacle courses and bounce houses that she couldn't get into. I thought my heart was going to break twice, but she just handled it like a trooper, and she was there for Dion, and she never took anything personally. She is the comic relief and the soul and the sidekick. Oh, it's beautiful.
She was 100% my favorite character. She was on the ball. She was witty. There was no episodes, or there was no scenes in that show where she was made to feel or presented as inferior. She was always the she knew what her limits were. She knew that she could do things that she wanted to do. She was literally on the ball. If a challenge presented itself, she was confident. She handled it. And whenever something might have negatively happened to her, she rebounded. You didn't even really ever see it impact her. I'd like them to have maybe dived into that a little bit more. But I think her role in the show was to be and to show just this. She, my favorite line is she said, he's my best friend, but he doesn't know it yet. And that confidence there goes with her the entire show. All 9 episodes, that's where she's at.
Yeah.
She's ahead of the ball. She knows what she wants. She does what she does, and there's nothing stopping her.
She came right into that house. Hi, I brought his homework. I'm Dion's best friend. He just doesn't know it. You're right. That was the perfect. And then a little spoiler, so cover your ears. I'll give you the tag. But there's a scene where Dion lifts her out of her wheelchair because he wants her to experience what it's like to fly and to walk and to not be held down in that wheelchair. And it does have a little negative impact. And she's very upset. She says, put me down, but never insults him. Never. She just calmly says, put me back down. I didn't want that. Thank you. And it's about boundaries. It's about she was never broken. When he has that realization and he like apologizes to her, like, you're my best friend and you were never broken. I shouldn't have tried to fix you because you're perfect just how you are. That's what little kids need to see. I'm telling you, kids don't always think that way, okay? I, newsflash, was a kid, even though I was a fat kid as well as a fat adult, okay? The kids don't always think that way. So it was so fun and refreshing to see that, something that I've experienced. So in a show about black superheroes, single parents raising a kid, I still connected with the theme in the show. It's fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. The actors as a whole in that whole show, all good. No complaints. Gabatron and I marathon through it in one day. We were just captivated from start to finish.
I love it. Now, again, spoilers, put your earmuffs on, everyone. Gabatron and Turk both were messaging me, hey, if this sidekick dude's going to be a villain, I need you to fucking tell me right now because I can't deal with this. And usually in a show, if I like a character, they're the killer. That's just always how it is, okay? And I lied to him. I straight up dogged him. I was like, no, I swear, man, trust me. Whatever I'm saying is the truth. I would never lie to you. And then I got the FaceTime message about 2 hours later. We can't be friends anymore.
Yeah, that really sucked. I predicted it from the beginning.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Like I said, I liked the guy, and he was trying too hard. He had to go.
Yeah, but I think they did it fairly organically. And again, they had that conversation on a woman expressed her boundaries, expressed that she was not interested in him romantically, but the character, had this expectation that because he was nice, because he did these things, because he was this, she owed him more. And again, just that it's topical. It is a show that discusses things that are happening in this world and that happen all the time, and it really resounded and hit the overall world that we live in right now.
It did. And you know what? I never once felt like it was really beating me over the head with it. Sometimes, I've seen funny memes that Netflix has the formula. Just throw in a mixed family, 2 LGBTQ members, and throw in a couple minorities, and make them a witch, and boom, you have a Netflix series. So sometimes I feel like they're pushing all the social issues all at once, and it feels very forced. But I did not feel that with this short series. And this is only part 1. I was so happy to see after the credits it said, don't worry, there's going to be a part 2. So I'm very excited for a part 2. I'm really going to see how they continue the story from here.
Yeah, I'm going to purchase the comics and read through them and see if there's any differences or anything like that. I really like that it is the author of the comics wanted to create a comic from, in all of comics everywhere, the parents die. Like, that is a catalyst to creating a superhero. So he wanted a world where that's not the case, and where a superhero is raised by their parents, and wanted the lens to be through that parent raising their super child. And I think that's
And I heard that the
fantastic.
comic was more, that the comic definitely focused more on that, just that relationship, that dynamic of it's from the mother's point of view. It really focused on her struggles, where we got tons of that in the series, but we still got some fun Dion as well.
Yeah. And I mean, and Dion is just the most adorable little boy I've ever seen.
When he has his telekinesis powers, and he's right once he gets the hang of it, that first part of like episode 4 or 5 where he floats the Cheetos into his room and the mom just follows him in, and Raisy's about to grab him and she snatches him and he blames it on his pet, and he's just like, I'm sorry, Pinchy, I should have never put you in that position. He's just innocent. He's pure joy. He's not malicious. He never once tries to be a shithead. It is just so refreshing to see this. I know that's the word of the hour, but I felt refreshed, even though I had emotions in every episode. At the end of the whole series, I just felt like this wave of calm happiness. Like, oh, that was a good experience.
Yeah. So overall, if Fat Guy Certified reviewed TV shows, and essentially that's kind of what we're doing, I think this gets a FGC stamp of approval of a show, because It's just wholesome, lighthearted entertainment. It knocked out a whole day, and I don't feel like mentally exhausted after watching it. Like, I would watch it again, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, what's more nerdy than a fat guy who loves comics, okay? Like, that's very on brand. So you're right, it was feel good. And you know what? When we come back from a break and a word from our sponsors, we're going to talk about a fest that is not feel good.
On this episode of When Opposites Attract.
I love it.
Thanks to our sponsor, Anchor, for helping us not only utilize this podcast and get it out everywhere, but also giving us the tools we can to make it. Because it would be a way different story if I didn't have them to walk me through this.
Touch all of you in a non-creepy way.
That was pretty creepy. Speaking of creeps.
Go segue, vroom vroom!
Let's have some Tiger talk.
Son of a bitch, you made me watch The Tiger King.
I made you watch The Tiger King. How are you feeling?
Sleep. I didn't. Well, one, I'm sleepy as hell because it was real hot and we had the first storm of the season come rolling through last night. So it's not like I'm afraid of the storm, but it's hard to go to sleep when every 35 seconds you get a boom. So I watched all 7 episodes of The Tiger King and I don't feel good. I'll be honest with you. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if this is going to make sense. Some people used to call me Circle Talk, but this is the most captivating show that you should not watch. There's nothing good about it, but it is a fantastic documentary for what it is. I did not like it, and I was captivated every second.
It's the definition of watching a train wreck.
Yes.
Like you can't look away. You have to keep going. Do you know what it reminded me of?
Tell me.
The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
I've seen clips. My mother loves those kind of TV shows.
Yeah, it's a documentary about a family from West Virginia and just like the trials and tribulations they've experienced being from a socioeconomic, low-income, drug-ridden town in West Virginia and kind of what's that's done. And I see multiple layers of that in Tiger King as well. So I'll do the ELI 5, explain it like I'm 5 for Tiger King, since I forced you to watch it.
Yes, please.
It is a documentary series based off of Joe Exotic, who is a gay redneck private zoo owner whom has a social media and YouTube online TV station presence. And there's a couple arcs that go through it, and it's a wild ride.
Couple? Jesus.
But it's really from the lens and focus of this caricature of a man named Joe Exotic. And you really look into the private zoo animal breeding lens in America, while also a little bit of cult, a little bit of controversy, a little bit of crime. It's absolutely a wild ride. And each episode really has like a different vibe to it. Like they're like shooting for different, I don't know, plots and stories, and they circle back on things that, like, you'll see one scene from one lens, and then you'll see the other lens as they're trying to tell a different story and how that changes. And it's whoever cut that footage and pieced it together did a really, really good job of telling their story.
Definitely, they deserve lots of credit because I think that the storytelling was top notch. Like you said, just being able to see a scene, and then 40 minutes later, or maybe 2 episodes later, you see the same scene, but now the timeline's a little bit more clear, and you're seeing it through a different lens, and it just changes everything you thought you knew. And you know what? I'm going to give you guys a little side tangent, explain it like I'm 5, because I simply ask, guys, I don't want to watch trash. Turk, Gabatron, can you please give me a rundown? They refused, even though as soon as they started raising Dion, they had to holler at me, you better tell me right now what this is going to happen, or if this guy's going to be a good guy or a bad guy. And I partook with them and I answered their questions like a good friend. They refused to give me the same courtesy. This does not just start off like, hey, we made a documentary about a freaking idiot psychopath. This was done through the lens of a documentary maker, a filmmaker, who was looking at illegal sales of reptilian animals when he discovered that somebody in the parking lot had a snow leopard in a 100-degree heat Florida van. And so from there, he's like, I need to know, why do you guys do this? This should be illegal. He started this 5 years ago. And he just reached out to this Joe Exotic because he was trying to find out about people who purchase big cats and why do they do it and don't they think it's wrong. And from there, everything just snowballed. So it wasn't like this person went out of his way. I just want to do something about Joe. It started somewhere completely left field and then rolled into this. And that hooked me instantly. If they would have just answered my questions, I would have watched this without having to go pull an all-nighter.
Yeah, but I wanted you to get hooked.
Oh, I got hooked. And you're right. This is so much more than just somebody that has a private zoo. I will admit I got into a little bit of a digital altercation with Gabatron earlier because she's like, if you're an animal lover, you can't watch this because it's going to break your heart. Personally, I don't think there's any animal cruelty in the entire series. I really don't. There's a scene where you see like dead bunnies in a picture. But, I mean, what do you think a bunch of lions and tigers are going to eat? That was really it. But there were some, like, emotional things that Gabatron didn't appreciate that, to me, just made sense. Like, I was desensitized to it. But you never really see an animal getting beat. There's no animals being tortured like I thought there was going to be.
So do you not think that, Doc Ante or whatever, where he would have a pup?
First of all, Doc Antle can go fuck himself.
Yeah,
he is
a
a monster. He is a scumbag.
Yeah,
and I went through the roof when I saw the very last thing in the documentary was the little burbage that said his compound was raided in December 2019. He is a scumbag. Yes, that was tortured. Like when it came out that he was euthanizing the cubs after like 6 or 8 weeks because they were no longer profitable. But they didn't show you dead puppies. They didn't show you pulling the trigger, which I thought Netflix was going to be all about trying to get these.
But they're still showing that. That's abuse. Separating and I know you kind of have to tame them, but you shouldn't be doing that. Is that they have to be separated from the mom so that almost instantly that's animal abuse in my opinion.
Without a doubt, they refer to abuse the whole time. Because having a big cat in a little cage, I mean, the cages aren't that small, but they're still cages. That's abuse. And you're right, taking that cat away from the cub away from the mom. But I've seen Sarah McLachlan commercials that are on a level of 1 to 10, a level 11. Yeah. What it shows you. And I didn't think that it ever showed you anything above a 4.
My one criticism, I think, is the good light that they put on PETA.
Yes.
There's a lot of known.
Joe hated them.
There's a lot of known
issues
with PETA and how they've got kill shelters and they do all kinds of nefarious things with animals as well. That it's not all sunshine and rainbows. But in this point of view, in this lens, it was like they're the saviors of all known animals, even though they still do some shady things themselves.
100%.
What was your, if you had to choose a favorite scene,
okay,
what would be your favorite scene or your favorite character?
So honestly, every character is pretty much deplorable. I think Renke or Reneki, he has no legs. He was one of the managers who helped run the GW Zoo that Joe Exotic ran in Alabama. He was just always there to kind of do his job, and he truly loved the animals. He never was there to abuse the animals. I felt the most for him.
Okay.
Because he even said, like, and the lawyer said, unless you could pump out thousands of millions of dollars, You're never going to see those cubs that you raised because the new scumbag con artist owns them and they're his now. And he was the only one who didn't testify against Joe at the very end of the documentary, which I'm not going to say we need to have any spoilers for this because it's all real life. And so if you read an article, if you follow the news, this made national news before, you might already know about these things. So I'm not going to put too many spoiler warnings ahead for this particular conversation. But I felt the most for him. Everyone else, they're all scumbags. And again, talking about how good it was of that director, whoever cut this footage, whoever directed and filmed this documentary, he made sure that everybody got to make their point, but they all still came across as scumbags. He never once made somebody look like they were in the right and that you should support or believe what they were saying. It was fantastic filmmaking.
Yeah, he was pretty transparent about most things. I'd have to say, favorite character, I don't necessarily really have one. I hated them all. But my favorite scene is after the one zookeeper gets attacked and their arm bit off, when Joe Exotic throws on an EMS coat and walks into the gift store and goes, "I'm gonna be real honest with you. A lion or a tiger just ate one of my zookeeper's arms off. I'll give you your money back, or you can come back another day." And
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that was good.
What? That is what, like, that's how you deliver that, and that is the type of person that Joe Exotic is.
Yeah, and he was just the manipulator. He was that master manipulator, charisma-filled person that can get you to do whatever he wanted. My heart was breaking for Joe was married 3 times. He's currently married to a young man, and his 2 previous ex-husbands, who I will admit my heart sunk because it was probably 35 seconds before they revealed that his second husband had committed suicide by accident, that I realized, I was like, I haven't seen him do any confessionals yet. They haven't interviewed him, and all of a sudden it clicked. Like, oh shit, I think I know why they didn't do that. And just to see how Joe manipulated both of them to kind of keep them under his thumb, which to me though, I don't know what's worse. Actually, I do know what's worse. In my mind, pet peeves right now, folks. America, Turk, in case you don't know it, I hate perverts, I hate bullies, and I hate manipulators. I can't stomach them. And so Joe and this Doc Antel, who are both big cat wranglers and breeders, are both of those, where Joe would pry on people who didn't have a home to go home to. He would find the people who were homeless at the bus stop, or people who just got out of prison, who couldn't find any other work, or who were drug addicts. He would give them a free place to sleep and pay them $150 a week to feed these cats and give them this grand experience, which they were grateful for. Doc Antel would go and get young, impressionable women and force them to live in like a concubine, and he would pay them dirt wages and make them eat in cockroach-infested kitchens and say, but if you were able to work a little harder with me, you can maybe make it better. And then he would make them change their names, and then he would make them feel important when he would pry on their young, impressionable brains, and he had like 7 wives, and when they talked about the woman that got away from him, that was a very hard scene for me to get through. And I just wanted to rip his head off.
Yeah, it's just predators, and they were predators breeding predators. And in the sense of they were breeding tigers that are a predatory animal, and they were human predators preying on the less fortunate, and just it's sickening.
And goddamn it, shout out again to that director, Carole Baskins. Someone tried to kill her, and you hate her the most. Like, she's the worst character. She might be the worst character. My gut is good, almost as good as Leroy Jethro Gibbs from NCIS, okay? When I judge somebody, I shouldn't say judge, when I pass that verdict, when my radar says, don't trust this person, there's something slimy about this person, I am not wrong. And I could not everything she said sounded fake. It sounded off, and it wasn't real. She sounded like a robot. I was like, my God, I can't believe I feel sorry for the guy going to jail for wanting to maybe possibly kill you.
For $3,000.
For $3,000. Oh.
I have two statements. Actually, I have one question and one statement. My first statement is I think that those three guys set up Joe Exotic and that they were going to go down, and so they made a deal to get him out of the picture. Joe Exotic, not innocent in any way, shape, or form, 100% deserves to be in jail, but so do those other three douchebags.
Yes, 100%. And that's what I loved at the end. Like, even his best friend, Joe, should go to jail. Joe illegally euthanized those 5 tigers, and he sold tigers and cats to other people, which was illegal. Those 100% he should go to jail for. But I don't think in fact, there was that evidence. Okay, so I got a side note. It's a train wreck. You have to watch it. But in the documentary, you hear the man who testified and said, I went to Florida to kill somebody for this person named Joe. He's on the documentary saying, I never went there to kill her, and I never even went to Florida. So you physically hear him on record saying, I never went to Florida, and I had no intentions of killing this woman. But he legally got on the stand and said, I went to Florida, I was in Florida, and I was there to kill this woman.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the killer didn't get any jail. He's not even on probation. It was just like, thank you, sir. Thank you for being brave enough to tell us that you were a dumbass and you went down there to kill somebody. And somehow him and the other con guy and that big, fat guy certified James Garner, whatever his name is, that's my favorite scene. When he said, you guys don't even know, I'm not even done yet. And then it kicks into a montage of him riding around on a jet ski in the ocean to the eye of the tiger. That's my favorite scene in this whole documentary.
Yeah, he's a scumbag too.
Yeah.
And so then I have a question for you.
End question.
Did Carole Baskins kill Dawn?
Yes, 100%. That robotic, murderer, psychopathic woman. So again, you just can't like anybody. The woman that that apparently had a hit out on her life, and you're like, oh my God, no. Apparently she married some billionaire he is worth millions when he was 40-something and she's 20. He left his whole entire world in life for this little young thing. And then he goes missing after filing, all the legal documents that said she threatened to kill me. I want a PDF against her, or whatever. No, that's a printable, readable, downloadable.
And then the will with not death but disappearance.
Yes, that was good. So she steals the will and she steals the power of attorney, and then it even legally says this has been updated by Carole Baskins, and the wording is, if I go missing, my money is to go to Carole. And the best part is the lawyer saying, you know what, I'm not going to say that she did it, but in my 33 years of work, I've never seen a will or a power of attorney have that wordage written into it. You just don't ever talk about if I go missing. Very strange.
I read something else that came out afterwards that said that Carole Baskins was down to the last couple $1,000s of her finances that she received from Dawn's disappearance, and she conveniently met another millionaire by the name of Howard 2 weeks later.
Oh, they didn't even talk about when she married her creepy-ass new husband, because he's a creep-ass too. Everybody in this show's creepy.
Yeah, everyone's got some issues, man.
I was really disappointed to see that the new husband was wearing a Nightwing shirt. Like, that's my favorite superhero. And I'm like, man, I don't want anybody to ever look at Nightwing and be like, oh, okay.
Howard is a Nightwing.
Yeah. So that I felt drained. I did not feel good like I did at the end of Raising Dion when I watched this. How did you and Gabtron feel after watching it?
We were just in shock, I think. We couldn't even really decompress it. I think the number one thing we really wanted other people to experience it with us so that we could talk and kind of decompress about it, you know?
And if you could take away the part, like, it's such a train wreck, it's hilariously bad and good at the same time. Just the one-liners that Joe comes up with, and the way he's a crazy asshole. Like, when he's getting sued by Carole and he blows up everything he owns on his little YouTube channel. or his little live streaming. Like, he thinks he's a big shot. He's just always performing. He shoots, he blows up his watch. He blows up his bed. He just shoots and destroys everything he owns. They live in filth. It's almost like they were in a third world country.
Yeah, I don't know. It's absolutely outrageous, and the fact that, yeah, I don't really have words for it other than like the statement, "Is this real life?" And it is, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it's 100% real life. And you know what? I think you guys, if you got a couple hours to kill, you don't have to binge it all at once. There are 7 episodes, they're about 40 minutes apiece, so you can watch 1 or 2 at a time. It's not that hard to digest. And again, if you got a couple hours, you're not going to want to stop. It is captivating. You might feel dirty, but you know what? Go ahead. You can take a shower afterwards. You can say a Hail Mary if you have to. And again, it comes down to also, I kept thinking, this is about the cats. This is about the animals, okay? Now, I don't know if we should stop every zoo in the world, but I don't think some hillbilly with a 10 by 10 cage should be able to buy 10 lions or tigers. I don't know the answer to how we repopulate the wild, but that statistic that there's 5 to 10,000 big cats or tigers in captivity in America, and there's only 4,000 in the wild in the entire world. That's a very daunting statistic. So I learned a little something, I felt a little something, and I wanted to take a shower when I was done.
Yeah, you definitely. If I had to recommend something, I would watch Tiger King, then Raising Dion, because Raising Dion's gonna give you that mental bleaching that you're gonna need after just looking at some of the most deplorable and degenerate human beings that have walked this earth.
You're right, and you know what? I'm glad that we got this chance to talk about these things. And you know what? We'd love to hear from all of you. So please, if you're listening to this, you can join our Facebook group at Fat Guy Certified on Facebook. You can leave a comment in our YouTube section. We just want to hear your opinions. Tell us if you think Carole killed her husband. Tell us if you think Dion is a good son or if he's a terrible son. Who's your favorite character? What's something else you want us to review? Just come join our community and share your thoughts.
Yeah. So I think if I have any final thoughts for this episode, I'm just going to reiterate what you just said. And my final question for all our listeners is, do you think Carole Baskins killed Dawn?
Dun, dun, dun. Maybe we'll talk about it again in the future. Maybe we'll talk about it in the thread. Maybe we'll start a Facebook chat.
Yeah, that could work too. I think we'll see what we can do. But I think that it's about time to wrap up. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say before we sign off?
I don't. Do you have anything you want to share with me?
No. I think that we can save some stuff for next week.
I love it.
I think this episode of When Opposites Attract is a good one.
Yes. And you know what? If you like this content, please just let us know. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Do all those things. Give us feedback. We can't fix it if we don't know it's broken.
Yeah, and we do appreciate every single one of our listeners. We've got a regular group that have been liking, and I can track some stuff on Anchor and on Spotify, and I'm so appreciative and thankful for all of you that just spend an hour a week with us, just listening to us talk about food and now some crazy TV.
So thanks for listening to the FGC podcast. This is Slug.
And this is Turk.
Have a good one.